Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family.
So here we are, and I'm sitting with somebody on the other side of the world in Roma, Livia Filotico. And I've just had a lesson on how to pronounce the name because, of course, as a global citizen, we should be able to pronounce everybody's names like that, right? Okay, and this is the very first of our sessions for HIS140, and which is dedicated to global citizenship and a comprehension of it within the historical framework that we use. And I want to do two things before I turn to Livia. One is to dedicate this session to my father, Victor Bussey, who is at this very moment about to leave this life, this mortal coil, as they say. So both Livia and I have talked about this, and we've lit our candles so that I honour my good father. Now, my good father is one of the people who gave me a love of history. And I'm going to read a poem, the first poem in my book called The Next Big Thing. And this poem's called It's Time, as a dedication. And I think you will understand why I've chosen this poem. And then we'll turn to inviting Livia to give us some words of wisdom. Isn't that right, Livia?
You say so.
If I say so, hopefully. Yeah. All right. So this poem is called It's Time. I want to say it's time to get moving, but really we're always moving, along with atoms and stars and all that lies between. No, it's time to move in other directions. Grab the rudder from the feeble hands of fate. Take control of this boat of being. Throw off the weight of the past, cherry pick it for what's best in us, and always best beyond the stains and strains. It's time to ask what next when saying enough is futile. It's time to love and laugh more, and time to cry and grieve. It's time to take responsibility in all its forms. It's time to outlove the bad in all and see or seed the good. I am restless with this sense of timefulness of things, dwelling with that perpetual yearning that calls to all of us. Yet our compasses we need to recalibrate. It's time for sure, and in time we'll know for what for. Right now, I stand up, playfully embrace this timely state. It's time to find new pathways to where we'd like to be before we have timed out, overcooked in the furnace of becoming. So thank you.
Thank you.
So, Livia, I'm so delighted to have you here. And, I'm asking you essentially two basic questions. The first one is, what does it mean to you to be a global citizen? We were laughing just before we started this recording that, I met you in London and almost immediately you were in Rome. But also, we crossed paths because you organised a session in Ecuador with a Canadian. So
yeah.
you get around. Can you please tell us what you think it means? What does it mean to you to be a global citizen?
It's no doubt I think you called it a simple question, and it is, but it's also incredibly complex, because what it means to me is not necessarily what it means to a lot of other people around the world. I have this, on a very basic, simple level, I have this ability to leave the place where I am. Not everybody has that. So whether for me, it's about moving from Rome to London, bouncing back to Canada via Ecuador. For some people on some other side of the planet, it's about, I don't know, wearing a football T-shirt from Italy.
Yeah.
So there are differences. I wanted to start with that because I think it's important. for me, on a very personal level, it means giving attention to the global, to the big thing, and to the local at the same time. And it's developing the skill to do that, because it's not obvious. You know, you can move from Rome to London to Canada, and you can leave everything behind every time you do it, and you can start afresh somewhere else. But that to me isn't being a global citizen, because it isn't matching the properties of life. Yeah. What life does, it connects you to other places and other people and other entities, human and non-human, all around the world. Being a global citizen is about learning, is about knowing that profoundly, deeply, and then acting accordingly.
Yep.
So that you are expanding yourself into other places and into other people and into other entities without cutting ties. Being a global citizen means realizing that you cannot cut ties, no matter how much you may want to. Sometimes you can't do it.
Yeah.
So partially that.
Okay, so thank you. And because I've just realized that your name showing up here is not Livia Filotico, it's actually Shimaka Education. I'm thinking that, you know, what I want to offer my students, that you, the audience, listening to Livia and I talking, is a sense that, you know, there's a lot more happening on the planet than all the bad news that we hear in the media. And, you know, so this Shimaka Education project that you're part of is very, very interesting. Can you tell us what is it all about? And because to me, it does really relate very much to Indigenous ways of knowing, evolutionary changes in our culture, the way we're thinking about things and so on, but also what are we doing? Because it's key to that project is the doing of it. Can you tell us about Shimaka Education, please?
Sure, absolutely. So when I came back to Rome, I was introduced to the political and spiritual leader of a nation, of a group of people, of an indigenous group in the middle of the Amazon forest in Ecuador. They're called the Sapara. And Manari, the political leader, and myself got chatting, became friends, you know, those pandemic friendships where you feel like you know someone really well, even though you never met them in person, but you talk all the time. So that was the kind of weird thing that happened between me and Manari. So we talked pretty much every day about life, the universe, and everything, the problems of the world, and what's great and what's not. And after a while, Manari told me, look, I've got this project. It sounds like you do projects. And I've got this project that with my community, we've been thinking about for many, many years. And I think it's time to start implementing it and bringing it into the world. And I said, yeah, of course, what is it? And he said, it's an education project. It's about formalizing the Sapara system of knowledge, which is an oral system of knowledge, into an education system, a curriculum, and a pedagogy. And then it's about bringing it to the world, to young people on a planetary level, so that they can stop being scared, or they can be a little bit less scared, a little bit less frightened, a little bit less anxious about the madness that's going on. Because indigenous knowledge, the knowledge that the Sapara have, is healing. It's all about reconnecting to the land and healing ourselves as individuals and as communities. And I was like, yeah, sure, I want to do that. Yeah. I want to help with that.
Yeah. Yep. I like it.
So we did. We started. It's now been going for a bit less than a couple of years. We started the project from nothing, from the idea. We started fundraising. We started working with an educator in Ecuador. She's fantastic. Manari and the Sapara have been working with her for decades on like education rights for indigenous groups. Yep. And now we have a curriculum. You know, it's incredible. It's based on Sapara knowledge, and we're about ready to start piloting it with young people. So that's Shimaka, really.
That's Shimaka. Okay, so that's great. So, you know, to me, there's so much positive stuff like this going on. And, you know, these sessions, these short sessions as part of my course this year, and are going to be showcasing, I guess, some of that. So what I'll ask you to do after we've finished the recording is flick me. I probably have it somewhere because I've attended one session with you, the web page and so on, so that anybody who's interested can tap into that. And if not, just take the idea away that there are other ways of knowing, other ways of educating, other ways of being in the world. And I think that's so important because we forget, we tend to be numbed basically by the pressures of modern pedagogies to perform, to get scores and so on, when really that's not what it's about. It's about becoming a better person, hey?
Yeah, about becoming a better person and about remembering that we can connect to the rest of the world. Life, it's about becoming more connected with everything we have around ourselves, and a good education system should have that at the heart.
So essentially it's local but global.
Oh, absolutely. It is absolutely local but global. Some of the methodologies are global, and the way we connect is global, obviously, because I'm connected with you and you are on the other side of the world. But it's local because without that sense of being rooted somewhere, whether it's physical or not, with a community, and I can't stress how important I think that is, we're weak, we're disconnected.
Yes, I get that. And I think that's really important to understand that, we are often unconscious members of communities. And I think as part of this deal is becoming conscious. So just before we finish up, you're off to Canada. You're off for another great adventure. Can you just briefly give us a snapshot of what that might entail? Of course, you haven't got there yet, so you don't really know, but what's calling you there?
So it's really cool. I think it's really cool, obviously. I wouldn't do it otherwise. So I am going to do a PhD in anthropology, and it's a research to action PhD, which basically means, I think, that whatever it is that I study, I then have to put into practice and do something useful with it, which is incredibly exciting because I love studying and thinking, but then I love the bringing it down to earth. So I'm doing a research to action PhD in anthropology at McGill University as part of this particular program called the Leadership for the Ecozoic, which basically means training leaders to learn how to create new ways of being in the world that are connected with other parts of life that are non-human. So I'm going there to study with Eduardo Cohn, there we go, the author of this book. He's going to be my supervisor. It's a great book, guys, like have a read. And that's it. We'll see what happens. But Shimaka and my relationship with the Sapra and with indigenous people around the world is going to be core to that, to my PhD.
To that work,
I imagine more and more as I start shaping the project and what it is that I want to look at. I'm going to be looking at Shimaka, the Sapra, and concepts of love and affection and the body, all of that. So more on that.
Love. Bell Hooks. She's one of our heroes. We both share her as a wonderful human being. Well, that's fantastic. I really appreciate you giving us time for the History 140 students.
My pleasure.
And, hopefully I'll catch up with you again to have another conversation, hey? So I'm going to stop the recording here. And, thank you so much, Livia.
My pleasure.